the end of the year, we all know what happens. Your inbox gets full of invoices and statements from your vendors. Some of them might be demanding payment by the end of the year. Some are telling you to hold off until the next year. So, how do you figure out what to pay, when to pay, and who to pay? And how can it affect your finances? One of the key things that a lot of business owners miss is timing of vendor payments at the end of the year, because this can actually have a big impact on your tax liability depending on how you file your taxes. So we're going to walk through a couple of things to make sure that you know when you should be paying things, and based on the type of tax return that you file, if it's even important. As you head into the year end, one of the things that I want you to do is first look at your accounts payable list. If you keep it in QBO or on an Excel spreadsheet, whatever it may be, make sure that all of these statements that you're receiving from your vendors match what you have on your books. If they don't match, ask for backup, ask for invoices, make sure that all the payments that you may have made throughout the year are being applied correctly. All of those things that are going to factor into, like, is this really what you owe? Obviously, we want to make sure that we know what we owe, but it can play a big part in not overspending in the end of the year. Okay, so I mentioned tax implications, and what I meant by that is I want you to know whether you are filing your taxes on an accrual or a cash basis, because this is really going to make a big impact on whether you need to pay anything by the end of the year. If you are on accrual base, that means that when you incur that expense, you should be recording it as an accounts payable, and it will be going on your profit and loss statement like as the day that you got that invoice. So it doesn't matter when you pay it, you have already accounted for the expense. Now, in a cash basis, though, it's going to have more of an impact as far as when you make that payment, because with cash basis, we're reporting it based on when that check was written. If you know in December, if you're on a cash basis, let's say that you are trying to get your tax liability down, you're going to owe this money to the vendor anyway. Do we need to make some payments so that you can owe less in taxes, but also get your debts paid? Knowing that has a big impact on your taxes. I mentioned earlier, some vendors may be wanting payment at the end of the year, and some, if they are on accrual based, may not matter. If they are on a cash basis and let's say they want to push that payment or that revenue into the following year, you might start calling your vendors and asking what they prefer, because if it could be a mutually beneficial relationship there. If you don't need the expense this year and they want to push the revenue into the next year, you can work together to make sure that both parties get what they want. As you're working through those accounts payable, strategize the ones that have a better tax implication for you this year. So things like contractors, software subscriptions, if there are things that you can basically prepay for the following year. A lot of software subscriptions are like that. Like, you can pay annually. Let's say you're on a month-to-month basis, but you need to reduce your tax liability. Just go ahead and pay for your Zoom account for the entire next year. And that puts all of the expense in that December payment and pushes that tax liability down a little bit. So those are things you want to be very strategic in how you're spending your money. Well, I already talked a little bit about communicating with vendors, but another thing that you can utilize to your benefit is, if you're willing to call up vendors and ask if they discount your bill in any way if you pay it now. Especially for very recently incurred expenses, maybe there's a discount for paying within the first 10 days. Or maybe you can get a discount on future invoices if you pay your invoice now. These are all things that, like, pick up the phone and start talking to your vendors, because you would be amazed at what some businesses are willing to take in order to get some revenue in the door. The last thing that I really want to stress to you is that you do not want to threaten your January cash flow by paying everything in December. January tends to be a really slow month for a lot of different industries, and that can have lots of lasting effects. So, not only does December potentially mean that you're like spending all of your money to make sure that you're pulling down your tax liability, but it could be limiting your ability to actually pay your bills in January. And as cash flow gets tighter, you have to make tougher decisions. And it can cause this kind of snowball effect in the wrong direction, right? Like you're snowballing your debts, you might be snowballing when you're paying things. And so it can create lasting problems throughout the whole next year if you aren't strategic about what you pay in December. Paying vendors strategically is just one piece of that puzzle. Next week, we're going to talk about your pricing strategy and how to optimize that for profitability. Stay tuned.